Welcome back to another episode of Boomer Bust, and I know why you're here. I know exactly why you're here. I know you saw that title, you clicked on it. You here for exactly what everybody wants during draft season. What everybody's looking for. Look for that quarterback talk. That's what we all want. We want that quarterback talk, Terry. Get past them offensive guards. We want to talk quarterbacks. And this year is a great year to talk about them. So, what I'm going to do is, since we do have a large quarterback pool and it tends to take some time to really talk about a prospect, I decided to break the quarterbacks up. I guess you could say they're in tiers, but I haven't watched everybody, so I can't tell you that somebody's better than the other, but there's definitely certain groups of quarterbacks that everybody's lumping together. So, of course, the first two that I did was Sam Darnold and Josh Rosen. So those are the first two up. So let's talk about it. I mean, in general, with quarterbacks, there's one gradable trait. So if you've been following me with these prospects, or if you haven't, I do have one gradable trait out of 5, one being the lowest, 5 being the highest. I have one. Each position has different ones. For offensive linemen, it was 2. It was just run pass blocking. And for quarterbacks, it's just arm or arm strength, whatever you want to call it. And so, I do that out of 5. 5 is not rare one, but it's elite. You got to have a big arm to have a 5. And the arm basically consists of what's your ability to throw the ball down the field, but more importantly, what's your velocity on your throws. So that's an important thing. I think some people see quarterbacks that can throw it far and say, wow, they got a big arm. And to an extent, what's your ability to throw with velocity, on regular throws? That's more important because that's fitting it into a window, that's beating defenders and all that good stuff. So only one gradable trait, but at the same time, of course, there's a lot of different things that go into quarterback play that I look at. To simplify it, I would say I definitely start off to see the arm, what type of velocity, what type of arm you're dealing with. Then it goes to the feet. What type of feet do they have in the pocket? Do they just stand still? Are their feet active and ready to move? Then we look at that pocket ability. What's the awareness? Do they see blitzes and pressure? And then what's their ability to manipulate the pocket, as we call it? So are they able to step up, or do they have good technique? Do they know where they're going? Or do they just escape out of the pocket, scramble drill, and look for a throw? Different things like that. Then, of course, we look at their ability to read coverage and go through their progressions, which is something that can be tricky, of course, without actual coach tape, but you can still tell, especially after you watch a number of tapes, you can tell. And then we look at the accuracy. Accuracy over the middle and or the medium and the short range, and then the long deep ball accuracy. So of course, all those things, decision making, all the small things is also taken into account. So that's kind of what I look for in a quarterback. Going into Josh Rosen first, UCLA quarterback. This guy, in my estimation, is one of the most polished quarterback prospects that I've seen, and I've probably been doing this about 7 years. Definitely Andrew Luck was up there. I think Andrew Luck had a little bit more gamemanship to him, I would say. And so that allowed him to do some things on the fly. But with Rosen, it is very prototypical. It's very, I wouldn't say robotic. That sounds like it's negative, but it is very mechanical, and that's something that you want. But at the same time, I don't think Rosen is somebody that's getting credit for his athleticism, because you look at this quarterback class and these guys are way better athletes than him, but that doesn't mean Rosen's a bad athlete. You're not talking about Mike Glennon or, someone like that just has no movement. This guy can move. If you watch him, he picks up first downs. when he needs to scramble. He's not a scrambler, but when he needs to, he can pick it up, and he can move to make throws out of the pocket or on bootlegs and rollouts. So he's not a bad athlete. He's an above average athlete, which is more than good enough. If you can throw the ball consistently well and pick up first downs here and there, that's more than enough. So but I love his accuracy. So talking about the things I love, his accuracy, and this is the thing you gotta really watch, especially nowadays, because one of the trends that I noticed with watching these quarterbacks, a lot of these offenses are similar. A lot are similar in some of the things they run, but if you watch UCLA this year, you know it was very much a pro-style offense. So he's already got the leg up with the under center and the ability to take a 5-step, 7-step drop, switch his way to make a throw. All those pro-style mechanics, he's already got that, but also he has to throw against a lot of man coverage. And so I guess that's more of a function of his receivers. I don't follow college football, like I said, but just kind of listening, I guess they didn't have one of the better skill positions in the whole country. So a lot of people tend to play man coverage like they did against the Bears when you don't have great receivers. But a lot of these quarterbacks that aren't Rosen, you can see they run around to get people open, or they do a lot of crossing routes to get people open, play action, or they extend the play. But with Rosen, he sits in the pocket and his throws are on time, but they're against man coverage. And so when you're throwing against man coverage, you have to be accurate, because if you throw it behind them, the defender's trailing, it's a lot easier for them to make a play, break it up, or pick it off, things of that nature. And so even in the league, you see guys that struggle with this. They don't put the ball in the right place. They don't put it where only the receiver could catch it. And Rosen does it time after time. If you are a casual viewer, I would suggest you watch Rosen against Colorado, where they got some prospects coming out in the draft, and they just said, hey, let's man up. Let's play man. And Rosen was darting. He's putting the ball in receivers' chest, right in their hands, right inside the framework where they can make a play after the catch, or where only they can catch the ball. His accuracy over the middle is just absolutely is great. And he has good touch on the outside throws. I wouldn't say he's the best deep ball thrower that I saw so far, but he's really good. So his accuracy overall is pretty strong. And his pocket ability is probably the best I've ever seen, to be honest with you, because in the last 5 years, there hasn't been a lot of pro-style quarterbacks. And even with them, they don't have all the technique down. But Rosen climbs the pocket like a pro. He takes his drop. He can climb the pocket left, right, or middle. He knows exactly where his space is. He doesn't panic and escape out the pocket and get sacked like a lot of quarterbacks. He steps up and delivers a throw. He doesn't just step up, wait and take off. No, he steps up with purpose, switches the power from his lower body, and makes a great throw. So, as far as reading the field, as far as taking drops from under center, making accurate throws, all those pro style things, Rosen is really high up. This is probably, like I said, one of the more pro ready quarterbacks that you'll see. Now, the knock with Rosen, like I said, is his lack of athleticism, but to me, I think he's got plenty of athleticism to do what he has to do. But at the same time, I do understand he's not going to extend the play. He's not going to run around into something that's open and things of that nature. And I think it's perfectly fine, because, again, if he's doing his job and he's got good skill players around him, you shouldn't have to ask him to do that. And so Rosen, for me, I gave him a 4.5 arm. I think he has really good velocity. He has great, he has great mechanics. They're not perfect, but he has really good lower body mechanics. And so I think he gets the most out of his arm. I don't think there's much you can get more from his velocity, but it isn't elite level, but it is really good. And so if you're thinking of a quarterback that has a similar type game, and I'm not saying that he's this quarterback, I'm just saying they play the same type of game, you would think about Tom Brady. Very pocket heavy. Rarely do you ever see Brady having to do plays outside of the pocket. It's either in the pocket or it's a run or a sack or something. And I think that's where Rosen fits comfortably. If you're thinking about a prospect that compares to him, I would say Matt Ryan coming out of Boston College is more so what you would think. Now, Matt Ryan in the pros does a little more than he did in Boston College, so I don't think he's the best pro comparison, but as a prospect comparison, that's who I would think of. All right, so let's jump over to Sam Darnold real quick, and you got the total opposite. I mean, very simply put, Sam Darnold is raw. He's raw with his mechanics, but he has a level 5 arm. And the one common thing all these years, whenever a quarterback has a level 5 arm, people get interested. Now, of course, he's talking about as one of the top quarterbacks because his arm might be more than the level 5. It might be more than elite. He's got like a crazy arm. And the only reason I don't think is more hyped is because you got Josh Allen, who also has an arm like that, but we'll get to him later. Sam Darnold can throw from different platforms and still throw with velocity. That's the impressive tool that everybody's talking about. So whether he's on the run, whether he's standing flat, whether he has bad mechanics, whether he's jumping up, falling back on one foot, he throws a ball with rocket velocity. And that is rare. And that's something that people are drooling over right now. And he has big arm syndrome, which is what I call it. And I remember the first time I came up with that was when I watched Blake Bortles and when he was in college. Big arm syndrome basically means that you don't feel like you need proper mechanics or, go through the proper steps to make a good throw. You can do it off your natural arm talent. And it also means that you like to throw the ball. You think you can throw the ball into windows that you probably can't. So people think of it as like a gunslinger, someone that thinks they can force it in because they have such a big arm. And sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong. So with Sam Darnold, he definitely has big arm syndrome. He needs to clean up his mechanics, pure and simple. I think his throwing motion, he definitely has a wind up. He has a lot of wasted motion. His lower body mechanics aren't great. He throws without a solid base, and he doesn't switch power from his base. So what you'll hear is people talking about solid base. You take the torque from the throw, your hips following through. The power shifts from your lower legs through your arm, and that's physics. So what you have to have is a solid base, and you gotta put your hip into the throw basically. And he doesn't do that. He just uses all arm. It's kind of like when you lift something and they say, don't lift with just your back, lift with your legs. It's similar to that. And so he has the arm to do it, and that's just kind of what he knows. And that's something that he's got to clean up because, yes, you can get away with that in college and you can do things in pros, but to be a high-level quarterback, you have to get to a point where you're using the correct mechanics. Now, as far as his accuracy, I thought it was all over the place. I thought his accuracy was so inconsistent because there's times, again, where he can put the ball in the spot because he just has that much velocity. And I do think generally he knows where to place it. It's just the mechanics of it that kind of hold him back. But at the same time, I think he has strong accuracy. When he's on, he's really on. He can put the ball in the right frame across the middle. And then on the deep ball, he doesn't overshoot too much. He definitely gives his receivers a chance. And so I think he has great accuracy to start with. It's just inconsistent. And the only way to really make sure that he's throwing accurate passes all the time is to get those mechanics together. And he does throw off a lot of platforms. He's running around and he makes throws. And so with the loose mechanics, it's hard to get an accurate pass. And the same, to stay on that point, his pocket is bad right now. Everything about his pocket is bad. I guess you can say he senses pressure, but I think he's trigger happy. I don't think he sees ghosts, but he's quick to run out of the pocket. Like, yes, he can make throws in the pocket, but I don't think that's where he's comfortable. He's comfortable throwing on the run, which a lot of college quarterbacks tend to do. They like moving. And in the pros, they like to get you to a scheme where you're like, doing zone and then you bootleg the other way. You think about Atlanta, Washington, they do that a lot of zone bootlegs. So they get you on the move, sprint out so they can get you throwing on the move because that's what they like. But at the same time, he has to learn to be better in the pocket. I'm not saying that he can't do it, but right now he does not manipulate the pocket well. He doesn't step up well. He looks to escape the pocket to the sideline and make a play. And there's times he's flashed where he can step up in the pocket and make that play, but it's very rare. And he has to get a lot more consistent with that. And then his decision making. That's the thing. Early on in the year, you saw he threw some interceptions, like terrible interceptions. And it was more like a spread quarterback type thing where you know where you're throwing the ball, you throw it without looking, or you just automatically do it no matter what. And as a quarterback, you got to be smarter than that. Even if it's a screen and you're like, okay, that's where the play is going. If you see a defender in front or somebody out of position, don't just throw the ball, tuck it and run or throw it away. So he has to get better with his decision making. Because there's no excuse for that. There's no excuse for those interceptions. And then just third downs and things of that nature. He's got to be a better manager of the game clock and situation, I think. But yeah. So Darnold again, I think, and the one thing I'm worried about is that his accuracy when it's at his worst is when he has pressure. And that's going to be a key question. And I don't think Darnold's scared of pressure. There's one thing of quarterbacks that's scared of pressure and just back up and try to avoid hits. I don't think he's scared of pressure. He's a physical guy. He likes to hit. But I do think he needs to understand how to make those throws in pressure and not try to run around and turn into Johnny Manziel. So that's a big question though, because when you go to the pros, typically if you don't have that training to handle pressure, it doesn't get much better in the pros. So I'm worried about that. So that's kind of him. I gave him a level 5 arm, of course. The guy has an elite arm, elite velocity. These are two different cats though. This is not a versus video. If you ask me, my preference is Rosen. I'm always partial to pro style, more polished prospects. But in the draft, a lot of people love upside and potential. So if that's more your flavor, you definitely like Darnold. And they got character quirks. I won't say issues. They got quirks that will be interesting because Rosen isn't the kind of golden boy All-American. He has his own opinionated opinions and he's fine with saying them out loud. So that's interesting. Then Darnold, he's a different cat. He's not a quarterback. He's wired like he's wired like a linebacker. In one interview, he used to play linebacker. In one interview, he was saying that he likes to get hit. He needs like that first hit to wake him up. And that kind of scares me on a number of levels. But, he's just not that quarterback type guy. I think he's much more of a Brett Favre. If you had to say anything, he's not, I want to sit here in meetings and go to practice. He's not a Peyton Manning. He's a Brett Favre. He wants to just go out there and ball. So I don't know. That depends on what your flavor is. So anyway, that's my thoughts on the first two quarterbacks. We'll be doing the next three, coming up pretty soon. Lamar, Baker Mayfield, and Josh Allen. So stay tuned for that. But the most important part is, what do you think? Go to the comment section. Let me know what you think about Sam Darnold and Rosen. Who do you like better? All that good stuff. Like, thumbs up. Please share this around with all your NFL friends. And thank you guys for listening.